And when I get people talking bad about that place, it really irritates me. You've got a thorn in your side in this town. I don't know why she keeps bringing up such problems for this city council, but they do nothing wrong. I had cancer. They stood behind me like you wouldn't believe, these people. So, all these people badmouthing this company, I'd like to tell them what I think of them, outside of this place. But I'll keep my peace. So just so you know, these people are very good. They'll do this town, especially what's happening to this town, losing both boat works, Dalco, the ethanol plant. You guys need some jobs. That's the way I feel. This town needs some help. I grew up here. I graduated in 1981. A couple of people here I see went to school with them. And that's just my thoughts on this whole deal. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Someone else like to speak?
I'd like to speak.
Go up to the microphone. We need your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Wendy Mulhauser. Last name is Muhlhauser. 1130 Riverside, sorry, Siri did not know how to get here. 1130 Riverside Drive Southeast, St. Cloud, and then 55304, I believe. So, do you know I am a children's author, and I'm an over 20-year educator. There are so many labels that all of us can have, and one of the labels that I don't so often share with people is that I'm a woman with disability. I have had 6 brain injuries, and yet I have a 4.0 in my doctoral program, and I'm a published author, and somehow my book is 5-star rated and has a Globally Mindful Award. I don't say that to brag, but the reason that I came is that I'm deeply concerned about the special needs children who may be in an area that is terribly, terribly noisy and that is not helpful to a person with brain injury or other disabilities. I will tell you that there's no way that I would be at the level that I am today if I couldn't control my environment, if I couldn't have a quiet, peaceful, quiet place to come back from the brain injuries that I had. I had no TV in my home. I had an amazing young son who was raised with a woman with disability, so he understood that he just needed to be quiet, and I'm so grateful for all of that. But the reason I'm speaking is that I feel so troubled to hear that children with special needs will be exposed to the noise and the chaos that is going to befell them when they're outside of their learning institution. Again, I am an over 20-year educator. My work is about preserving childhood for all children, not only typical needs children, but for special needs children as well.
You have 1 minute left.
Okay, the other piece that I wanted to talk about, my dissertation chair is named 4 Arrows. I was born in North Dakota. I believe strongly in caring about the voiceless, and too often Native Americans are voiceless. There is an amazing man who is buried, Chief Hole in the Day. And this is an area where we need to be respecting and honoring this man who no longer exists. So that's an important piece of it. I'm juggling a lot of things right now. It felt so important for me to be here to support a friend of mine who lives here because I want to make sure that we are honoring our children who also are voiceless. Thank you very much.
Would someone else like to speak? Sarah?
Sarah O'Cry, 611 3rd Street Southeast, Little Falls. I'm just coming here as a special needs mother to give my viewpoint. I think some people here don't give special needs individuals enough credit. We should give them the opportunity to learn and grow like everybody else. Don't try to put them in a bubble. Let them experience the world just as everybody else gets to. So I wanted to address a couple things. I'm concerned about smell. So let me back up. I have 3 kiddos. 2 of them are blessed being autistic and nonverbal. Sensory is a big part of our lives. Every sense, touch, smell, sight, everything. So the concern about smells, I live that every day. Sometimes good smells can be a problem, because if they walk past somebody that has a pleasant smell in the store, they might want to chase after that person and start smelling them. Kind of an awkward situation for mom, right? Bad smells. I like to think I'm a good cook. They don't. So when I start sending up some smoke signals in my house, and it's pretty stenchy for like 3 hours, those are opportunities for my children to learn and grow. They would like me to have more opportunities to learn to cook, but we'll figure that out. Also a concern about noise. Noise is a big thing for my kiddos too. And the movement of vehicles and the sound of vehicles has always been a struggle for them. And that is why we make sure that we give our kiddos the opportunity to get out in the community and hear those sounds and see those vehicles. We walk miles and miles a day so that they can learn and grow how to adapt to that environment and how to settle themselves outside of that environment. Also, my kiddos, they elope, they run from safety areas. They currently have been attending Limburg Elementary School. They have one-on-one para-help, and every special needs kiddo gets the help that they need, whether it's one-on-one or not. And when they're outside, they are a safety risk. But then again, when they are inside, they are a safety risk. I know the safety risk my kiddos have living right there on the main drag. I trust in their one-on-one support as they learn and grow to be able to be safe in that environment. So I know every special needs individual is different, but I don't think that trying to put special needs kiddos in a bubble, away from the world, away from allowing them to grow and thrive in the community is the right thing to do. So I think both Barrett and Midstate can coexist just fine.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sorry, Bart Field, and we now live at 506 12th Street Northeast, but we have an empty building sitting downtown at 115 First Street Northeast. And I am definitely for the Barrett food products to come to town because I think we need to economically keep this community going. And it sounds like the location that they want is the right location because they are going into an industrial park, not into a school area.
Thank you, Barb. Go ahead.
Sarah Barrett Reiner, Barrett Petfoods, 1348 State Highway 25, Brainerd, Minnesota 56401. Thank you, Council, for listening to us tonight. What Sarah just said was really important. So I'm here to tell you that we are community oriented. So we donate to our local schools, we donate to our local 4-H club, we donate to our local FFA club. We donated money to the Crow Wing County Canine unit to buy a bulletproof vest for their dog. We are very active in our community. We believe in community. And that is why we've chose Little Falls. We had plenty of other communities who offered us the same or better benefits, but we felt that Little Falls was where we belong. We grew up around here. Our grandma used to bring us to town to go to the laundromat when we were kids, and it's always felt a little bit like home. So that's why we wanted to be here. I want to tell you that we have invited Midstate out to our facility. They postponed. We invited each and every council to visit our facility, as well as business leaders, local business leaders, because we are an open book. You are welcome to visit our facility. I want you to feel comfortable in your decision because we want to be comfortable here. So I also want to let you know that you cannot always choose your neighbors, but if you can pick something about your neighbor, pick the neighbor who's willing to work with you. We are willing to work with Midstate. We are willing to ease their mind. They just have not come forward to allow us to do that.
You have 1 minute left, Sarah.
We are willing to spend extra money and effort to ease their mind. Although I will tell you that each person that has visited our facility this week has not complained of smell or loud noises. They were satisfied after they left. They saw that it is a well-run, clean facility, and we do our best to keep it that way because we are proud of what we do. Thank you.
Mary Taylor, 23124 South Platte River Drive, Pierce. I have been with Barrett's for almost 10 years. I work in the meat room. The smell is not all that bad. I'm in there every day. We drive by. I don't smell. I ran the Pierce Youth Bowling and went straight from work to the bowling alley. The kids have never complained and said that I smell bad because I didn't have time to go home and shower. They give us uniforms to wear. We don't have to pay to have them washed. They cover it. Like they said, we get our boots, our insurance. So I think it's a wonderful place to bring into Little Falls, and it'll be closer for home for me. So,
Excuse me, could I get your first name again, please?
Mary Taylor.
Thank you.
Someone else like to speak?
Hi, I'm Bob Reinitz, member of the EDA, longtime businessman. I don't understand why we can possibly object to this company coming to town. We've lost enough businesses. We've managed to get lucky and pull in a substantial employer that's growing incredibly fast. How are we gonna why would we ever turn this down? This makes no sense to me at all. I don't understand the objections. A lot of it is totally unfounded. I think we're very blessed to have this opportunity. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tom Smoody. I'm over in Piers at 400 Centennial Drive. We recently purchased Redwood Industries for building a new crush plant for oil. We've been working with Barrett since 2010, starting out with 2.5 gallons all the way up to tanker loads now. So it's been a huge success for us, and we've grown from 0 employees to over 20, and it's going to keep on growing, especially with this year expansion. So I just wanted to come and say that, I mean, just not the jobs that they're going to create, they're creating so many more 10 miles away also. So and I drive truck. I unload our own oil up at the plant. I don't notice any noise. I mean, it's quiet. You can walk around there, and I guess if anybody, I would say go up there and see it yourself, like Sarah said, because it's a very well-run business. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Susie?
My name is Susie Persapio, address 10139 Hilton Road, Little Falls. I also own the shops Little Falls downtown. Some of you may know, previously I served on the school board, and at that time I also served as liaison to the Midstate District. So special needs education and kids were near and dear to my heart. So seeing this coming before the council, I belatedly reached out to Sarah Barrett, who very graciously let me walk through the facility today. I was ready the minute I opened that door to see if I smelled anything, and I didn't smell anything. The facility was exceptionally clean. It was a pleasure to walk through a manufacturing plant like that. I think that for an educational district within a industrial park, you could not ask for a better neighbor than Barrett. And for our community, I don't think we could ask for a better employer.
Mike Wilson, 311 First Avenue Southeast Piers. I've lived in the Piers area for 42 years, and I've known Sarah's dad and stuff, and when they started business, and they've done a wonderful job. The only thing I have against them is they're not building in Piers. But this is a good alternative. You know, their business has grown. It's helped our communities over there. They're out in the middle between Brainerd and St. Cloud, and they have all these employees. What better thing could you have to bring people out into the community? I've dealt with farmers for 42 years, and farmers have been going broke pretty fast with milking cows. And these people are going to open up a new thing for them about different types of crops and premium prices that they have to pay to get different crops here that they use every day. And I think that'll open up things to our farmers to give them an opportunity to be able to stay in business. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bridget Fitzgerald, 11583 Bayview Road in Little Falls. I also went over to the plant to take a look at it, and I will tell you I had no concept what I expected to see, but I can tell you when I went in there, I also was very impressed, one, with the openness of answering any questions that I asked them, two, the cleanliness of the place. I'm not sure what I expected. It's a manufacturing place. I mean, I worked at Green Giant growing up. This is a lot cleaner than Green Giant growing up. It was clean all over, and I shouldn't say a lot cleaner. It was clean. You wear, the scuff things over your shoes. You walked around. I didn't notice a smell. We got outside of the car, and you might smell something that smells like you're in the row of dog food sales at a store. That's it. That's it. It's not a smell of decay. It's not a smell inside. It's not... I was amazed at the process. The whole process was clean. The whole process is laid out for everyone to see, and they're paying good wages. They work with employees in high school, right out of high school. They keep them there, they grow them, they train them, they move them up in their line so that these people who are working there are getting good long-term employment and long-term jobs. They give benefits. I heard their benefits today. That's great benefits. In a town our size, those are great benefits. So I would strongly support them coming into town. And I'm sorry for Piers for not getting the second plant.
Would anyone else like to speak? Thank you. We'll move on to our bill discussion. I should say, Mr. Archer, I'm sorry we've taken up a little bit too much time, so we're probably going to need part of it here and part of it in our next meeting.
That's fine.
Any questions with the bills? Give me a second because I need to...
Well, you're looking, Mr. President, I just got one. So I know there was a large payout for the trail.
Yes.
They haven't even laid a speck of asphalt yet.
So they put the trail, or the curb and gutter down, and then they patched Liver Drive, so about, it's 4 foot width strip, 4 foot strip along Liver Drive is completed. So that's what, we'll get that for you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
That's my question. I had something written down there, but that's what I had to deal with. And that, correct, is being reimbursed from
That's correct, from the DNR, yes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions with the bills? Consent agenda items, any discussion with that?
Yes, Mr. President, I have a request. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules when it comes to the Oakville with ordinance 19, 7 series with Barrett Industries, where instead of making a motion to vote on it right away, that we can open up the discussion first. I have some questions that I really want answered.
This is our work session, so we don't do any motions during the work session. And we're talking about the consent agenda items right now. So section 6 in your agenda, right here. If they're on to the consent agenda items, Mr. Archer, please, for our audit. Thank you, and sorry to keep you waiting.
That's okay. Thanks for having me here tonight. If you said that this might run into, you might have to cut me off at
I
some
didn't know
point.
how much, we usually stop at 7:25 with our work session to move to our regular meeting at 7:30, so we can start that one on time. So if you need more time, then we'll just make time at the beginning of our next official regular
I'll try to
meeting.
talk fast. How about that?
That would be wonderful.
Okay, perfect. So your audit report itself is about 120 pages. So I figure if I cover about 1 page every 5 seconds or so, we'll be good, right? I do have handouts here, a PowerPoint presentation. I don't see it up on the screen. Do you want me to just dig right into it here?
Go ahead.
Okay,
We have it in our packet.
So you all have a report like this?
Yep.
We're gonna flip to the first page in there to talk a little bit about the audit itself. And specifically what we're going to talk about here is the opinion that we're giving on your audit. And so I think you're all pretty well aware of what we do in an audit. I won't get into all that, but I want to let you all know that the opinion that we're giving is an unmodified opinion. That's us saying that after going through our procedures, we believe that our opinion is that your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. That's the opinion that you all want to receive, and that's what the state auditor wants to see also. Okay. If we move into the next page where we talk about audit results, this page and then the following page, we're actually talking about some required communications that us as auditors have to communicate to you all. And so here we're talking about our audit process. When we're going through, when we're looking at your records, dealing with your management, do we have any issues, difficulties? Do we see any unusual type transactions? Any alternative ways that we would prefer to see you account for anything? And we didn't have any of that. In terms of estimates, we take a look at your estimates that you have. The highest risk estimate that we look at is the value of your pension plan, and specifically I'm talking about PARA. That's determined by an actuary, so we look at the inputs that the actuaries are using to kind of make sure that they're making decisions based on accurate data. In terms of new accounting standards, you don't have any this year. You will see some coming in the following years related to your fiduciary activities. You've got an agency fund that we may have to change how we account for things. And then a couple of years beyond that, we're going to be looking at how we account for your leases, but nothing that's going to affect you this year. Working with your management, they were easy to work with. They gave us the information that we asked for. We didn't get the feeling like they were trying to withhold information from us, which is important from an auditor's perspective. Quick to respond, so the audit process really went fairly well. In terms of adjustments during our audit process, we didn't propose any adjustments that we would consider to be material. So when we're going through, we're looking at your records and looking at the schedules that your management provides to us, we didn't have any significant adjustments or changes that we made to that. Your management team does outsource posting of a number of adjustments for us to handle for them, but that's all done by information that's provided by them. So we're not making up the numbers for you or helping create the numbers. You're providing them to us and we're recording them in the audited financials for you. In terms of internal controls, the next 2 pages here, same internal control items that you've had for a number of years now. One is that you've got a smaller accounting staff, and so you've got a lack of proper segregation of duties in your accounting function. Very common for a city your size or even a city much larger than you. And the other is that we draft your financial statements for you. So the 120 pages that I'm trying to knock through in a few minutes here. We wrote that for you. That's been outsourced to us. Okay. As a part of our audit process, we look at compliance with Minnesota statutes. And some examples of that might be whether you're bidding like you're supposed to be bidding, or getting quotes, receiving quotes when you're supposed to receive a quote. We look at some conflict of interest type items. We look at the structure of your cash accounts to make sure you've got enough collateral pledged on those accounts, among other things. When we went through that process, we had no issues or non-compliance that we identified. Okay, we're going to look at some numbers here really quickly. And so what we'll do is we'll start with the governmental funds first, and then we'll shift over into the business type or enterprise funds. So starting with the general fund first, if we look at this year's activity compared to what you had budgeted for, this year's revenues came in at $5.39 million. You had budgeted $5.26 million, so you're about $132,000 higher than budget in the general fund. If we were to drill down on that detail, you'd see that you had really the largest variance there is that licenses and permits came in higher than what you had anticipated. In terms of spending, you budgeted $4.19 million. Actual spending came in at $4.24 million, so about $54,000 higher than budget on spending. If you were to look at the page in the audited financials to look at the variances here, you'd see actually most spending categories were slightly above budget, other than public works, which was lower than budget. So the public works kind of neutralized some things downward. Overall, you plan for a break-even year. Fund balance actually increased by $54,000, and so with that, your fund balance at the end of the year is $2.2 million in the general fund. If we look at that fund balance relative to the size of your city's operations, it works out to be about 37% of a year's expenditures sitting in your unassigned fund balance. You have a policy on what that floor is, which is 35% of expenditures, so you're slightly above that minimum policy that you have. Even though we had an increase in fund balance this year, because of the growth in expenditures this year, as a percent of expenditures, your fund balance actually went down by 1%. In terms of cash continues to build in the general fund, although not at a rapid pace over the last 2 years. That dip in 2015 actually is related to some dollars that were loaned to another fund for the 2015 petitions project. So it's a little bit misleading there. You can probably ignore that. And the year before also is related to some loaned out money to a project. Cash at the end of the year in the general fund is $1.65 million. So you all have a number of funds. What we do is we take a major fund approach. So we look at what funds have the most activity, and we report on those here. The remaining funds get lumped together in that column on the far right, non-major governmental funds. So what I'll do is really briefly, I'll just walk through these funds quick. EDA is the first column here. EDA had an increase in fund balance of $96,000. Most of the activity going on in here relates to some levy dollars that you had coming in, as well as repayments for loans that you all had made out of the EDA. And then spending is related to community development type activities. You've got a transfer in or some other activity of $54,000, partially related to a sale of property, partially related to some transfer activity. This fund at the end of the year has a fund balance of just under $700,000. EDA loan fund, similar type activity here. The revenues coming in are primarily loan receipts or repayments coming from loans that you've made out, and similar type expenditures. These are all economic development related expenditures, primarily making loans. This fund had an increase in fund balance of $7,400. Ending fund balance at the end of the year is $2.7 million. Equipment reserve, most of this activity is capital related, so capital outlay, you purchase some equipment. Overall, this fund had an increase in fund balance of $220,000. That's actually been subsidized by a transfer coming from the general fund. Had that not happened, it would have spent down. Ending fund balance is $1.8 million here. Debt service is very prescribed, but the bulk of the activity is actually not even shown on this page. It's netted on the line of other. You had about $910,000 of bond proceeds coming in, and then you transferred those dollars out to the 2017 petition fund. So because they came in and then transferred out again, they're netted out here. Otherwise, making your principal and interest payments as you should be. We do a deep dive on that during the audit to make sure that these are being allocated out between the different debt service funds like they should be, to make sure you're making these timely, and we look at the compliance aspect of it too, and everything looked good there. Petition projects fund, this is a newer fund for you all. Really the bulk of the activity here is just the actual construction activity going on, about $1.76 million worth. This fund has a deficit at the end of the year of $1.7 million, which is typical for you all because you do the work and then you fund it after the fact in the fund. Non-major governmental fund, like I mentioned before, this is a lot of funds combined together. A few takeaways that you're not going to get from this page though. For the special revenue funds that you all have, all of these funds now have a positive fund balance. And that wasn't necessarily always the case. Capital project funds, some of these do have deficit fund balances. I jotted them down here. I probably don't need to go through them all, but that's normal for a lot of these capital project funds because, like I mentioned earlier, you tend to do the work and then you make the fund whole after the project's done. In terms of cash, debt service cash is spent down a little bit over the past few years. Like I said, debt service is very prescribed, so I'm not concerned about this. I'm not, the concern you would have in debt service is, do we have enough money set aside for future principal and interest payments? Based on what I've seen, I'm not concerned with that. EDA loan fund is steadily increased, although this year took a small dip, and the EDA fund has increased a little bit over the past few years. Looking at the next page here, equipment reserves got about $1.7 million in it. Non-major is kind of all over the place, and that's typical with these, especially with the capital projects included with them. And petition project fund has no cash yet. Okay, we're going to look at your enterprise or business type funds here now. Starting with the water fund. Water fund had revenues of $1.6 million. Spending of $1.12 million. The revenue is actually down a little bit from last year, and that's primarily driven because of a decrease in consumption. You had some increases in your business rates this year, which has offset that a little bit, but the primary reason for that decrease in revenue is consumption driven. Overall, this fund had $475,000 of operating income. From there, we've got a large transfer out. This is related to the completion of the water project. So with that large transfer out, this net position did spend down by almost $700,000.
I don't know if that would be a good spot to pause.
We sure can, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Lori, I'm just going to ask because we did have we can make a real brief utility billing clerk.
Yes, we have that on the agenda for action tonight. We did receive, I believe, 83 applicants. We did phone interviews, interviewed 10 individuals, and we have a recommendation for you on the agenda.
Okay, then we will adjourn until 7:30 for our regular meeting.